Hi folks, we'll see how this works. We're going to take a look at one of my recently acquired science fiction art books, which is called Beyond Time, Sci Fi Art of the 1970s, which was a real purple patch, I think, for science fiction cover art. And this one is by a guy called Adam Rowe, and unlike most science fiction cover art books, it's a bit more dense in the information department than some. Some are 99% art. This one has got, numerous pages of background information, both of the art and of the kind of genre in general. So let's take a look. The first thing that we see when we open the book is the end papers, which is an image by Dean Ellis. It was the paperback cover to a book called Projections by Stephen Robinette. And you've got nice Bruce Pennington there on the left-hand side. It's a nice table of contents, and he's divided it, rather than doing it by author or by year or something, he's done instead by theme. So there's the abstract, surreal and otherworldly is the first section, and then there's spaceships, vehicles and megastructures. We will have a good spaceship. Then there's sci-fi cities and landscapes, planets, explorers and space travel, life in the future, planets, animals and alien life, fantasy realms finally, and then cryptozoology and the paranormal. And somewhere in there's a lot of space cats. I think that's probably in the plants, animals and alien life. So there's several pages of introduction. I'm not going to attempt to convey that to you here, mainly because I haven't read it yet. And when I do read it, I'll probably do a proper review at some stage, because it won't take very long to read. There's probably only 50 pages in total of text, if that. So it's not it won't be a major exercise to read them. So we're into the otherworldly. So that's a Bob Pepper cover on the left-hand side there, which I think I'm right in saying was a cover for, it was either Philip K. Dick or, Harlan Ellison, there we go. The Beast That Shouted Love at the Heart of the World from 1974. Lots of high colour images, some more slightly surrealist images. Now that one there on the right hand side is quite something. That is somebody called Punchatz, Adon Ivan Punchatz. Yes, while Punchatz had the range to produce photorealistic art, his best covers employ his homebrewed style, neo-primitive surrealism. The designs are smooth and minimal, yet the composition is complex. The end result is always engaging and frequently disturbing. Certainly the one on the right is pretty disturbing, and that was the cover for Starshine by Theodore Sturgeon. And it says here that the artist's crisp acrylics bring a clarity to the scene that belies its mystifying concept. So there's the poor lady has had her head split open. There is a dove of peace, and I don't know what the hell's going on with the rest of it. It is quite peculiar. Then there's a whole page of chess in science fiction. Who knew that was a thing? And then what looks like some comic art. There's a spread then on Galileo magazine, which only had 16 editions. That's a dinosaur lizard thing, looks like it's about to eat the guy in the jetpack there. Some Leo and Diane Dillon, who I think I'm right in saying did quite a lot of the covers for the Ace science fiction specials, the first series. Now we're talking spaceships, vehicles and megastructures. That's what you're all here for. Who wants to bet Chris Foss will appear in this section? Some really lovely detailed pictures in here. This next page features an artist called Stuart Cowley, who was very young at the time that he started, in his late teens, but he wrote a book, Spacecraft 2000 to 2100 AD, a fictional future history retrofitted to match the sci-fi art he already loved. But he couldn't find a writer, and he ended up writing it himself, and it went on to sell 800,000 copies in 8 languages and launched 3 sequels. There's another book, Great Space Battles. I'm certain that my school library had some of those, and I lapped them all up. There's a Chris Moore image, delightfully retro, of a Pan Am space liner. Then we get a couple of Sid Meads. That one on the bottom right there is a Future Party, it's called, from 1975, and there are a bunch of strange-looking individuals there. It's kind of like the cantina scene in Star Wars. And then we've got some Ringworld type images. There's the iconic Ringworld cover by Dean Ellis on the left-hand side there, and then another one by Stephen Vincent Johnson's, which is Approaching Dawn on Ringworld, complementing the predominantly blue scene to highlight the ring's beauty, which is a lovely picture in its own right. And we've got some space habitats, rendezvous with Rama. And frankly, these images are a good deal more interesting than the book, in my humble opinion. You've got some Bob Eggleton, some flying saucers and UFOs, some space elevators. Your space elevator was proposed in 1895, apparently, by rocket scientist Konstantin Tsiolkovsky. I think he's the same guy that proposed the notion of a generation starship as well. Sci-fi cities and landscapes. I'm losing track as we're watching because I want to look at the pictures for longer. But if you want to do that, you just have to go and buy the book. It is available on Amazon and probably in most good bookshops as well. I just love the colour in some of these. Look at these two. They're fantastic. That top one is on the right hand side is Mark Salvosky's cover for Beige Planet Mars. Well, actually it's from 1998. It's not very 70s, is it? Canals on Mars. So I'm going to write a strongly worded complaint to the management because those are not from the 1970s. I've been sold a pup, but they are very beautiful, so I suppose I'll forgive that. Underwater sci-fi. There's a section coming up fairly soon of skulls. There we go. So this is a Skull Planets section. So the one on the top left is a cover of one of the Isaac Asimov's Space Ranger series by Ray Fabush from 1974, and there's two quite different takes on the idea of a skull planet. So in this one at the top left there, the planet is a skull and it's got rings, and in this case on the right hand side there it's Bruce Pennington, which is on the cover of Science Fiction Hall of Fame Volume 2, edited of course by Robert Silverberg, which I now want to find a copy of because it's such a great picture. The rings are of skulls and bones and things like that, sort of strongly implying some kind of violent backstory, suggesting debris from a space war, or the product of an ancient death cult, or explorers who ran into a planet-wide security system. And it's very beautiful indeed. I just love the detail in Bruce Pennington's art. I'm always curious to know how big the canvas was that he painted on. Presumably it was a lot bigger than the cover of the book, but I'm curious to know. Then there's some artwork from the Foundation series on the following pages. The famous one of Harry Seldon in his chair there, that's by Michael Whelan from that 1986 cover of Foundation. Just perched up at the top there on the top left is the cover of Promised Land, which is one of the Hooded Swan books. And I always wondered if it was by Chris Foss, but it's not. It's by somebody called McKee. Angus McKee is also British. Some inside views of space habitats, which are either cylinders or tubes, or ball-shaped, the inside of a sphere, or torus, like a donut shape, apparently. And there's some different images of each kind. It's interesting to note that Andy Rowe, who's put this together, has studiously avoided gratuitous naked women, which often appeared on books in the 1970s, completely unrelated to the content of the novels. He seems to have decided to stay away from that. It's probably for the best. Next might be one of my favourite sections, which is skeletons in spacesuits, which is a recurring motif, and it's got I'm handily covering it with my hand there, but Inherit the Stars by James P. Hogan's got a skeleton in a spacesuit, and there are others, as you can see. And there are more, I think, on the next page. Yeah, look at those. And then there's gunfights in space, and laser battles. It's a whole spread on reflections in spacesuit helmets. Life in the future, or futures. So what will life be like? Space habitats, underwater cities, and future Earth's polluted atmosphere all share one solution: domes. Paul Laird's cover of Sturgeon is Alive and Well. Cover on the right hand side there, which was by Frank Kelly Frias, The original's on the right-hand side there, and then it was repurposed for the cover of one of Queen's LPs. I think it was News of the World, 1977. And he redid it, but with the cast of with the members of Queen, including Freddie Mercury, with the gut wound that the robots inadvertently created, and that's a pretty iconic image. Then we've got some post-apocalyptic scenes. What does life look like after things have kind of stopped on Earth? One of my favourite subgenres, morbidly enough. I really like that one on the top right-hand side there. Actually, I like all of them on the right-hand side there, but the one on the top right is quite evocative. It's like a burned and melted city with a hot red sun behind it. And that apparently is the two-part cover for parts 1 and 2 of the French edition of The Sheep Look Up by John Brunner. Plants, animals, and alien life. Space cats. We're fascinated with cats. There's cats everywhere. Look at them all. An army of them. That's Bruce Pennington's cover for Decision at Duna. Space squid, obviously. And that bad boy there was Bruce Pennington's cover of Dune. No sandworms in evidence, but there was a bit of spice mining. And the blue eyes, of course. And the top right-hand section of that cover was also used. So the Bruce Pennington covers were on the UK editions from the 70s, but I think it was reused on a Philip K. Dick book. I forget which one now. I'll have to look up and put it on the screen. But completely, just reused completely randomly. Had nothing to do with the content of the book whatsoever. Space dinosaurs, pretty common. And that's one of my favourite Bruce Pennington images there. That on the top right there, that's a cover for 1970s edition of A Time of Changes by Robert Silverberg, which is just fantastic. And if you look at it closely, the skin is peeling off the skull still, and you've got the skeleton with the of the bird with the pointy beak, the killer birds. And we've got a bit of first contact action. Lots of tripods, etc. Then we've got a single flower on an alien planet. Then we've got fungi and mushrooms. Bit of trees. And that one on the right hand side, which I particularly like, the green one, is a cover by Tim White for Critical Threshold, which is a Brian Stableford novel, which is pretty green and humid looking, isn't it? A page full of Michael Whelan images, and I particularly like the one on the right hand side there, the top right, with the pterodactyl. And it's not a pterodactyl, it's a dragon. It looks like a pterodactyl, but it's not. It's the cover off of Dragonflight by Anne McCaffrey. Looking very splendid too. Anyway, let's leave it there. I hope you enjoyed that little look through this book, Sci-Fi Art of the 1970s. I'm really going to enjoy having a more detailed look at that myself, I think. But for now, thank you for watching, and until next time, goodbye.